Okay, my name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here I wanted to have a little discussion because the tier lists are going to start coming out and people are going to start giving their takes, and this is something that immediately the effects are being felt. Let me just talk about somebody else for just a quick second because you've already read the title, you've already seen the thumbnail, so you know what I'm going to talk about in this video. But just talk about another unit that I'm not going to talk about in this video. Sort of Hope Trunks. If we're looking at hybrid Saiyans, the immediate fall off straight away, just get him out. We don't need him. For anybody that did use him, hybrid Saiyans shouldn't do anyways, but you know, there's no point of using him simply because this guy exists now. Even on future, you can just swap him out for leader with this guy and then you're sorted. So that just says a lot, doesn't it? But there is another comparison who I want to talk about because the comparison is much closer and they represent the same tag, being sagas from the movies. We got Beast Gohan, who is the new unit in the meta, running the meta. And then we also have Ultra Super Gogeta, who's been running the meta in the top 3 to 5 for the past 9 months, ongoing, by the way. But I'm gonna give my take on both of these units, and I'm gonna talk about whether one is better than the other. But before I even get anywhere further into the video, before someone even thinks I'm just being biased, I want you guys to know that Beast Gohan is better. Beast Gohan is better. There's no comparison. But it is a conversation to be had because I feel like there's going to be a large amount of downplay on one of the other character, the Ultra Super Gogeta. So I feel like it's still something we should compare about them just to see, in case people feel like you shouldn't even use Super Gogeta at all, which I don't feel is the case. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. All my social media is going to be on the bottom of the screen. This is the YouTube channel. We've got Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, Instagram, and a Discord link all in the description below. So make sure to check me out on all of those. But yeah, man, let's get into the peak of this video. So I feel like what we should do firstly is actually look at their kits to actually just refresh our memory, because some people tend to forget. The recency bias tends to get to a lot of people. So I feel like we should look at the kit to see what it actually is that makes each unit good, or what just they bring to the table. So we're gonna look at Ultra Super Gogeta. They're both melee types, so Ultra Gogeta and Gohan. So it just makes it easy to compare, and they're both blue, both Sagas units. So it's lovely, cool. I'll just display maximum stats just for the video so you can see. Stats: 269 on the strike, 260 to 170, 170. He carries 2 strikes, and on occasion he gets strike damage up. Blast armor, and he gets key every time on the strike. Blue card destroys all your cards every single time, and it's got blast armor, special move up. The green card, you can't cover change it when he pops it. 20% to strike here, and cancels attribute upgrades, which is really good. The ultimate arts nullifies endurance and some ultimate damage as well, which is good. No endurance, nullifies endurance. Destroys one of your cards and forces are all in, and then of course you get health, key, and damage inflicted. Now he's an ultra, so he comes with an ultra ability, but it's specific to fusion warriors. So it's either you put him on the leader slot and you get the max buffs, or you run him with 6 other fusion warriors to get the other equivalent thing. If you don't have him on the leader slot, he gets buffed 5% for each member that is of fusion warrior, or he'll get the full 30% if it's just on the leader. That's how the thing works. So it's 30% to damage inflicted and key recovery. Same way if there's 6 fusion warriors including himself on the team. Z ability, he gives extra special move on 14 stars, and he strike attack and defense. Pretty dope. If we go into his unique abilities, this is where we're getting to what makes him really unique to their kits. Flat out draw speed permanently, which is really good. Damage inflicted is really good. Unique gauge is the type that consistently fills up. It's an attack gauge, so you can see here he gets a special move every single time. That's a blue card every single time when the gauge fills. Restores health, key by 40, plus 20% to damage inflicted, and he also gets a bit tankier. Applies until the enemy combo finishes, and it can't be stacked. The second unique ability is what really makes him a dangerous unit here. When 2 allies are defeated, randomly destroys one of your own cards and draws the ultimate arts Soul Punisher. That's his ultimate. So if he's the last stand unit, he'll get another ultimate, which gives him the opportunity to draw 2 ultimates in one game, which is insane. He goes type neutral if he enters the battlefield, and if one person is dead, this activates twice, and he also locks them in for 5 time counts. If one person dies when he comes in, that activates twice. Really good. If you rush him, 5 time counts to all the allies is minus. so you can literally switch them out much faster, which will allow him to stay alive because he doesn't come with any factors such as endurance. He does extra damage inflicted to tags powerful opponent and sagas from the movies, which is actually something that's quite underrated. And he's got a strike cover change which can combo into a blue card. That's everything in his kit that makes him really, really beautiful. And now we're going to go into Beast Gohan. Now Beast Gohan here, like I said, he's a melee type as well. We're going to do the same thing, so display maximum stats to look at them. Now you can see that his stats are partially lower, but he's got higher defenses at a base level. He carries 1 strike and 1 blast, even though he's a melee type, so he's generally offensively good in that sense. And it's 10% of damage inflicted, whereas USG had the strike. Blast armor on the strike, but he doesn't get key every time, but it's compensated by the fact that every time he does a blast card, the enemy's cost goes up by 10 for free timer counts. It's not a very long time, but it's something that you should point out. The blue card and the green card are something we really want to talk about, because with Beast Gohan's unique gauge, it's the type of like a power up or a power move. If you played any like RPG, you build up this certain like bar, and when it's full, you get to do like a special move or a power up, and you get to choose which one you want to use it with. That's the best way I can explain it to you. So if we look at the blue card here, he has a condition if the unique gauge is full. So you work on filling up the unique gauge. If you think of someone like Perfect Cell, the LF Cell, when his gauge fills, it's maxed out and full. However, there's a way to empty it, which is what we're talking about here. So if the unique gauge is full, deals massive impact damage, resets own unique gauge to 0. That's what happens every single time. And then he would get these effects here. Plus 60% is a special move. He restores his vanish, and he goes type neutral for free timer counts, and it's got blast armor. But if the unique gauge isn't full and he uses a blue card, he only does 30% special move damage, which is much less. And he doesn't get the gauge thing, which is good, like really good to know. The green card, Ferocious Awakening, if the unique gauge is full, he's going to destroy all your enemy cards. That happens twice if you fill up your unique gauge twice. Randomly draws 1 new card, restores key by 50, 40% damage inflicted, type neutral for 5 timer counts this time, and he also has the vanish thing, 70%. But if it's not full, you only draw 1 new card, and you'd also get damage inflicted, but it's only 30%. So it's a lot less if you actually use the green cards and the blue cards if you do not have your gauge full. The ultimate arts here deals supreme impact damage, 40% to ultimate damage inflicted, nullifies endurance, and this one here, if it's not with the gauge, this one here, there's just an extra condition if there's a defeated battle member, so you get your gauge up if there's at least 1 defeated battle member. You get your gauge back when you pop the ultimate 70%. You draw at most 4 new cards when you have 3 or fewer, which is great, and it's always got blast armor with or without, I believe. Yes, which is good to know. So solid. If we look at the main ability now, okay, then guess it's my turn. He draws the ult, restores health, key, attribute upgrade, minus 100% to sustain damage card, and he cancels attribute downgrades and abnormal conditions. He also has an extra thing here. If there's 1 defeated battle member, he actually reduces the enemy Dragon Balls by 2, which is actually a lot, and he also gets 20% damage inflicted, but that can be cancelled, just to point that out. If we look at the Z ability as well, Hybridane, Saga, Sun family, a lot of things going on there. 38% to strike, attack, and defense. And he also gives an extra 18% if there's a Hybridane tag and they get base blast defense. So all of that doesn't really matter if you put him on leader anyway, just to point that out. Same way with Ultra Super Gogeta. And just to close out here with the bulk, the Awakening Beast is the first unique ability. He starts with his gauge at 100%. Now this is very important to note because he gets a lot of things when his gauge is full. So with his gauge starting full, let's go through the whole thing and I'll explain when we get there. Damage inflicted starts high, reduces damage received starts tanky. He's also got draw speed, which cannot be cancelled, which is very, very good. This is just when battle starts, but that is throughout the whole battle because it can't be cancelled. Applies the following effects to self when this character enters the battlefield. Restores ki by 40, 60% damage inflicted. That's only 1 time. Goes type neutral, so if you start with him, he's going to be type neutral, but that's only to damage sustained. That's every time you enter the battlefield. And nullifies attribute downgrades and abnormal conditions for 10 timer counts that activates 5 times. Here it says there's a condition if there's a defeated battle member, so he randomly destroys 1 enemy card, restores own health by 25%, and reduces damage received by 10%. A lot of things going on there, but he gets something even extra. It's like they're just putting paragraphs in for paragraphs, man. Also draw a special arts card if there is a defeated character Piccolo or character Pan battle member activates once. Now this last bit here, we're going to dive a bit more into what else he has. Heroic Protector of the Earth. So he has a strike and blast cover chain, so it's global. It just doesn't cover change against blue cards and whatnot. If he cover changes, he randomly destroys one enemy card, knocks them to long range if it's a strike or blast, like I just said. And you know, the typical nullifications, nullified activations are not counted. You know how cover chains work. He actually has 2 of those, so bear that in mind. Comboable into a blue. He also shortens the own sub count by 3 when an enemy uses special move, Awakened Alter, or Ultimate. So that's good to make him switch back in. And as we know, with Pan and Piccolo, sub count reductions are a very big play to getting buffs all around the team. Applies the following effects to self when an enemy activates Rising Rush, activates once, and restores health by 30%. Restores own health by 30% once, only once it reaches 0. So that's if the enemy rushes, which is very effective. He's got endurance in that sense. Charges own unique gauge every time this character uses an arts card while they're on the battlefield. Applies the following effects to self once unique gauge is full. Restores ki by 40, plus 25% damage inflicted for 30 timer counts. And you can see some more buffs there that's crazy. Draw speed. You can't cover change him. That's every time the gauge is full for 15 timer counts, and that happens every time. It doesn't have a limit. And he's also consistently stacking ultimate damage, so it's good to get his gauge up and then get it back down, get it back up. That's the way to move with him, and that's going to be the end of Beast Gohan's kit. Now, if we get to comparing the two, I'm going to point out some of their strong points, because I want to already say, as I said at the start of the video, Beast Gohan is definitely the better unit. I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to argue that Ultra Super Gogeta is the better unit, but also bear in mind that Beast Gohan is in the boost, and we won't know how he fully operates when he's off the boost. But if we just look at how USG has survived for 9 months, we can assume that Beast Gohan is not going anywhere even after the boost. So he's definitely better than Ultra Super Gogeta. But I want to say, because Ultra Super Gogeta has been in the game for a long time, his banner has rerun a couple times. A lot of people have him high stars already, and at the time that we are in right now, the festival is literally round the corner. A lot of people probably got shafted anyways, but even for those that didn't get shafted, if you're saving, you didn't summon, so you don't have him. USG is still a very valuable unit, and I'll tell you why. There's differences between both of them, which make them valuable. But for example, I'm going to point out some differences where one character edges over the other. So let's get with that. So I'll give some differences as to where USG edges over Beast Gohan, then I'll go the other way afterwards. So with USG, I feel like what's very, very impactful is that his advantages when one ally is dead are way more favorable than Beast Gohan's, in my opinion. And the reason why I want to say that is because if we look at someone like Cooler, who's literally rose to #1 in the game just because he locks in, USG can do that twice when he's dead, and he literally gets a buff off it if there's 2 people dead. So he goes type neutral for 1. That's a big gameplay. He draws blue cards consistently. Big gameplay, they do a lot of damage. He can have his ultimate as well, which is already a big play. If you're locked in and he's type neutral, that's a quick opportunity to do damage, and that's not even talking about rising rushes, which Cooler consistently always has an advantage over. I will take the additions to what happens to USG when one ally is dead over the additions to what happens to Beast Gohan, simply because the lockings are so valuable. You can almost guarantee a kill if you prep it correctly, which we've seen so many times with Red Final Form Cooler simply rising to the best in the game when he released, because when he hits you with that first strike, you're locked in and there's nothing you can do about it. That's a big game changer. Very valuable for the guys that already have Ultra Super Gogeta, maybe feeling down because they maybe didn't get Beast Gohan, but I'm telling you, that is OP as hell. Now, some people might disagree with me with this, but I feel like in a long run type of thing, it's way more valuable. So if we look at their blue cards, I genuinely prefer Gogeta's one, not because it does a lot more. The Vanish is obviously more valuable as well with Beast Gohan, but the thing I want to point out is that Beast Gohan's Vanish Restore is conditional to the fact that his gauge is full. Now, if we look at Gogeta's, he destroys all enemy cards. That gives you extra time to prolong yourself, maybe fill your gauge naturally, or you can continue your combo as the enemy will have to draw back all their cards. If they had an ultimate art, you destroyed that. It's very valuable to consistently destroy their cards, on top of the fact that he consistently draws a blue card every time his gauge is filled. Now, if we look at Beast Gohan, like I said, it's conditional. You have to get the bonuses of it only when your gauge is full. The Vanish is very valuable, and he goes type neutral for 3 timer counts when you pop the blue. However, that's only when the gauge is full. If it's not, you're just going to do damage inflicted, which is not exactly in your favor in a last stand situation. at least if you got the vanishing gauge prior to the gauge being full, I would favor that, but you don't. So I feel like that's a big downer. Not to say that it's bad at all. Like I said, I'm not downing Beast Gohan. I'm just telling you, for what Ultra Super Gogeta has, you should not downplay what he has in his kit simply because Beast Gohan is running rampant in the meta. I feel like it's a very good factor to point out because a lot of people are going to have Ultra Super Gogeta and maybe feel like he's not usable just simply because Beast Gohan is here. You will definitely feel the power creep as well. I want to point out, actually I'll get to that later. My third, and I think I'm going to leave it like this when it comes to giving advantages for Ultra Super Gogeta, is the fact that this guy here, Beast Gohan, he is conditional to the fact that he can't get cover change nullification unless his gauge is full. Fair enough, it happens unlimited amount of times, but Ultra Super Gogeta gets that and he gets to do it at will. So with this, you have to consistently fill your gauge and then you get it for what it says here, 15 timer counts. Applies the buff effect, nullifies enemy special actions when activate, changing cover, 15 timer counts. That's valid. That's 100% valid. But with Ultra Super Gogeta, you can see here every time he pops the green card, he gets that same thing. It's 10 timer counts though, and I feel like the 5 sub reduction is like a sacrifice to the fact that you get to choose when you want that no cover change to happen. Obviously you still get to choose if you fill the gauge, but the fact that you have to do a card, you don't get exactly when you need it. If you do a green card, it's just happening right there. You'd have to start off a combo filling up that whole circle with the gauge, which makes it a lot more conditional. You have to work harder to meet it. Whereas this guy, you pop the green card, it's good to go. With Beast Gohan, of course, the gauge will be filling often, because one thing I do want to point out, just so you know, I'm not just downplaying him at all. I'm definitely not, because he's the better unit. He starts with his gauge at 100%. So you could pretty much start the battle and just not have the cover change, then just refill it within the first combo, because he also has permanently card draw. But I just want to point out that is a lot more conditional, and you might feel the effects of that actually causing you to lose a game in a scenario because you couldn't choose when you could have got your cover change. But it's not that big of a point to really worry about, but I just want to bring it up that it's nice to have the choice, because that's what made Ultra Super Gogeta brain dead for real. Now if we look at what Beast Gohan excels in, I'm going to start with the fact that this guy here, he's literally rush resistant and only against some few characters. Now if he's last stand, it's a lot more valuable unless you're facing someone that consistently nullifies endurance, such as the androids, Cooler on main, and I think Full Power Frieza does, just to put out a couple. So you can see, let me check where it is. When he gets rising rushed, he literally gets endurance straight away here. Applies the following effects itself when an enemy activates rising rush. Restores on health by 30% only once when it reaches 0. That's very valuable. And I've taken that over the fact that Ultra Super Gogeta, he literally, when he gets rushed, he lowers the sub counts by 5. Now, with lowering the sub counts, that means you still have to sack somebody else. And if somebody else doesn't have endurance, you're still going to lose somebody. But at least with Beast Gohan, he can tank the hit and he won't necessarily die. He will just lose maybe his first bar, but you'll still keep him alive. But if USG, you'd at least lose somebody on your team, and that's not very favorable unless you're running somebody else with endurance. Then again, you can argue against that, but then you still have to kind of work around it with the fact that you only lower their sub count by 5. What if they have 1 more second left, you know? So definitely big plus there to Gohan with the fact that he has the endurance. It's just way more consistent in my opinion, and unless you're facing a specific person, like, you're not going to have to worry about getting rushed if you're Beast Gohan. Now this one here, when I was pointing out the benefits of Ultra Super Gogeta, I pointed out that Beast Gohan is a lot more conditional because you get certain things when you fill his gauge. However, I want to say that with his gauge, the value of it is more, so making it a slightly more conditional makes a lot of sense. Now if we look at his gauge here, the thing I want to point out is that when it fills, right, you get all of this down here. Damage inflicted 30 timer counts, which can be cancelled, but it's fine. Draw speed, which can be cancelled, but that's fine. Applies the effect, you can't be cover changes, 15 timer counts over USG's 10. And then the ultimate damage here, this is what I want to point out. Every time you fill it, you gain 15% ultimate damage. Now imagine how many times you might feel that in a game, because you can literally do the longest of combos, and there are some tanky guys in the meta right now. Every time you fill it, you get 15% ultimate damage inflicted. With that ultimate damage, you can literally guarantee a one-shot with the ultimate. That's every time. It doesn't matter who you're facing, because if you've been consistently doing long combos, you're literally going to shred somebody when you pop that ultimate. Whereas with Ultra Super Gogeta, you won't always have that guarantee of one-shotting somebody. Yes, he was very powerful on release, and yes, he still can do a lot of damage with his ult, but with Gohan, it's almost like you're guaranteed, because you're building up ultimate damage, and to my knowledge as well, it cannot be cancelled, as you can see. So the fact that he's consistently building it up, you don't have to create a certain scenario as you might have to with Ultra Super Gogeta, because you're consistently increasing his value as the time counts go on, just because you've been filling his gauge. And I feel like that's something to really note as to why he's going to have a lot of longevity. Even if he comes off the boost, he can still be a nuclear weapon. That ultimate is very valuable, almost guaranteeing a kill. You can almost make it as equivalent as the Rising Rush with his other factors for him going type neutral with his green card, for example. Now, the last thing I want to point out is that Beast Gohan, he has a global cover change, meaning that he cover changes against strikes and blast, whereas Ultra Super Gogeta, he only cover changes against strikes. However, Beast Gohan's cover changes are limited to 2, so you can only do it 2 times. After the second time, you don't have any more cover changes with him. With Ultra Super Gogeta, you can do it unlimited time, but it's only against strikes. Now, I feel like with both of these units, they're very powerful units, so having unlimited strikes, strike cover changes, is not as valuable as being able to cover change both, even though it's only 2 times. And the reason I say that is because just the fact that you have global cover change, it makes the enemy a lot more wary about the way they play, because no matter what they do, they could get cover changed. So they would have to drop in more various ways, which can lose them, give them more opportunity to losing priority. Whereas with Ultra Super Gogeta, you know he can only cover change against strikes, so that already puts him at a disadvantage, because it's set in the air that he can only do strikes. We know it's only strike, but if this guy, you don't know when he's going to do it, you don't know why it's going to come. Even though it's limited to only 2, I feel that 2 is way more than enough in a game, considering you'd also have 2 other units who probably have cover changes themselves, and if they don't, they probably have something that just makes it so that they can't extend their combo as long as they might be going. So you don't need to value Ultra Super Gogeta's simple strike cover change when you can have a global one, which makes the enemy a lot more afraid of what might come. And that is just the ballpark about it. There's nothing more around it. I feel like that reasoning is literally obsolete, and you can't argue against that. It's just real. But yeah, that's gonna end off the video. The only thing I might just sprinkle on top is the fact that, and this is down to you guys by the way, Beast Gohan's an LF, and he's an LF on a 2x Z power banner, which is 1200, whereas Ultra Super Gogeta is an Ultra, meaning that every time you pull him, it's 2000 Z power, and that means you only need to pull him 5 times to 14 star him, whereas you're going to need a lot more luck, so it seems, or a lot more pulls rather, let me not say luck because I haven't done the calculations, to actually max out Beast Gohan. I've got Beast Gohan here at 9 stars, and in my experience, my personal experience, I spent way more on way more on Beast Gohan getting him to 9 stars than I did on Ultra Super Gogeta getting him to 14 stars. Now, you can also argue as well, there's a lot more guarantees with LLs simply because of the way their banner set up with their crappy PE system. It's crappy. But just in my experience personally, I've been a lot more luckier with Ultras. And with the Ultras, you kind of know what you're getting. There's only one character you're looking for, really and truly. But with LFs, you could get side character banners. If you get a Bardock animation, it could be the side character banners. So it's just, there's a lot more to go about it, but that's just down to your opinion. But if we're talking down to the characters, Beast Gohan's definitely the better unit, but I want to put it in the air to not downplay the GOAT, who's been running the game for a long time, just because, you know, he's been replaced on Sagas from the movie. You can replace him on any team, to be honest. Does not mean that this guy here is bad, and if you have him, definitely still use him because he's still very valuable. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button, man. We are on this grind to 40,000 subscribers. All my social media are going to be in the bottom of the screen. This is the YouTube channel. We've got Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, Instagram, and a Discord link all in the description below. The debate's in your hands now, but I think I raised a lot of good points. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.